Andalf takes a sip from the glass standing near his table. Indeed, as it turned out, the pirate captain had no patience with Tom Gare and his love for his ship, and so he finally gave the gruesome order to leave the captain on his ship tied to the mast, leaving him to the waves. But if that were not enough, one of the pirates even took a hammer and a large nail and drove it right through the forehead of the doomed captain to keep him quiet once and for all. And though, so the story goes, this didn't happen, it is said that Tom Gare was still alive when the pirate ship left him on the open sea, toy of the tides. The members of his crew who had survived the raid later told the tale, and they also claimed that he was shouting at the pirates when they left him, cursing them. Yes, he did, though nailed to the mast he was. Andalf takes another sip. And so ends the story of Tom Gare, though everyone here at Mossy Rocks Cove will confirm that the Wandrek of Tom Gare, the veteran, is still out there somewhere on the ocean. Throughout generations, people have reported to have seen this small ship, crewless, and some say as well that they have watched the rotten corpse of Tom Gare nailed to the mast, passing them by and then disappearing in the fog again. None can say if this appearance is Tom Gare's spirit, which still hasn't come to rest and seeks revenge at the pirate's descendants, or if he only wants to warn others of the dangers he faced. Got another story, you ask? Just ask for tales if you want to hear more, and I'll tell you which ones I know, Andalf says, smiling. How about telling me some sailor stories? So you'd like to hear some sailor stories, Andalf's face lightens up. Let's hear it again? No, not again. Why? Let's hear the two brothers you suggest. There once were two brothers, children of a fisherman and his wife in Nepris. One was named Adolf, he was the older one, and the other was called Marin, being 2 years younger. Adolf was a very aggressive child, and didn't make life easy for his smaller brother. In fact, it was said that he didn't care much about Marin. Every time there was work his parents needed to be done, Adolf managed to delegate most of it to his brother, and every time when there was some advantages to obtain, Adolf claimed them for himself, and Marin received little, if anything. There wasn't much Marin could do. He was the younger and the weaker, and so he accepted his fate. One day the two brothers, who were in their teens, fished together in that Ducrere far off the coast. Suddenly there was a wrenching movement in the nets, and as Adolf tried to investigate what was the cause of all this turmoil, an enormous swordfish freed itself from the net. In its desperate efforts while leaping out of the sea, the swordfish hit Adolf with its pointed sword, and Adolf stumbled back, bumping his head on the gunwale, and then he rolled into the sea. Marin witnessed this scene with horror and, without thinking, jumped after his brother, rescued the unconscious body, and dragged him back into the Ducrea, thus saving Olaf's life. This event changed Olaf. He was so thankful to his younger brother that he started to treat him differently from then on. He even vowed that should something happen sometime to Meryn, he would also risk his own life to save his brothers. And so time went by, the brothers grew up, and while Meryn remained in Nepris, fishing like his father and grandfather, Olaf moved to Sjossa, where he became a merchant. Every now and then he visited his younger brother, but there came a time when the contact seemed to break off, and they led their separate lives. Meryn eventually married the neighbor's daughter, and she became pregnant soon after the ceremony. Everybody was happy in expectation of the soon-to-be-born baby, and there was a big discussion on how to name this little fellow. One day, Meryn's wife, Amra, lay in throes of agony. What all had hoped would be a great celebration of childbirth, in fact turned out as long hours of labors for the young mother. Being soft and fragile, she struggled for more than a full day with the birth, and though the midwives did their best to save her life, it seemed hopeless. At the same evening, heavy clouds formed over the Mithril, and a storm broke out, so intense and terrible that fishermen would speak of it for generations, and caused a lot of damage at the Mossy Rocks Cove region. In the midst of the storm, Amra struggled with her baby and her life, but as morning dawned, neither was her baby born, nor had Amra perished yet from her strains. When the sun rose, fishermen brought further ill news. A ship had obviously capsized on the cliffs during the storm, and various crates and at least one dead body had been found already. However, there seemed to be good news among the bad ones as well, as one of the crates contained a rare medicine composed of exotic gunthread leaves, which only grow at specific parts of the continent of Nibelmar. The medicine was said to not only have strong effects to soothe the mother's sufferings during childbirth, but could also provide strength. The Neprisian herb woman immediately recognized the medicine and knew it was the last chance to save Amra or her unborn child, and so applied it hurriedly. And indeed, only short after the treatment was used, a little boy was finally born, and he was healthy with the eyes of his father. Amra, though weary and exhausted, also recovered from her pains very soon afterwards. It was not until the next day that the proud father discovered that the dead man who had been washed on the coast, and whose medicine had saved his wife's and child's life, was his brother Olaf. Meryn prayed for a long time for his brother's soul to find its way to Bavara's embrace, and the sea goddess whose nearness he had once more experienced in these hard times. He also thanked her for the gift of new life she had granted to him. Days later, when the ritual bathing of the newborn took place in honor of Bavaras, it was an easy decision for who the young parents would name their son after. Olaf, Meryn said, and Olaf would only be the first of 3 children that Ambra would bore her loving husband in the coming years.